Welcome back, guys. It's
Yes, sir.
officially one of my favorite times of the year. First of all, it's the springtime, but we have the NFL draft. I guess I should say it is one of my favorite times, but being a Lions fan, it can also kind of be a disappointing time. But I do just kind of love the activity that kind of goes on during the draft with the trades and things along those lines. And even being a Lions fan this year, I think that I'm more optimistic just with the new general manager, things along those lines. So yeah, draft time is finally here.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's for any fan, it's a good time to be optimistic. At least you can go in hoping that your team does the right thing, or hoping that your team picks a player you may have watched a few times throughout the year, or your favorite school. So it's always a time of optimism. People, you're kind of a fresh slate. You always could hit a home run, so it is a good time. Um, and we're going to go kind of run down through the whole draft. But when you're a Lions fan, the one good thing is, you can always watch the first 10 picks and we're guaranteed to be in there. So it's something I know. Even when the few times we made the playoffs about 10 years back, it was kind of odd to watch us pick in the 20s. So, but yeah, just kind of looking. I think there's no questions on who's the top of the draft board, who is the consensus number one for the last 3 straight years. And I think we're just kind of go pick for pick. I would imagine we'd have to start from the top around the same here,
Yep.
our draft order. But yeah, you go ahead and kick it off the first pick, and then we can go pick for pick.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, no brainer at all here. I mean, I think we all knew he's going to be number one pick as soon as he started as a freshman at Clemson, and that's Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he's just kind of been, his game and everything speaks for itself. Able to win a national championship. I'll never forget that game. That's the first time I've ever seen Alabama get destroyed like that. He was pretty much at the helm, running that, and he just kind of came in and produced year in and year out. All American. So he's really just been that guy, and I don't anticipate Jacksonville using a ton of clock in order to take this pick. So definitely got Trevor Lawrence going number one.
I agree. Trevor Lawrence number one. I would say if he's definitely the best quarterback. I would say there's no questions about it. He's definitely the best quarterback. I'm still a little not sold on the idea that he's a generational talent, that he's Peyton Manning, that he's Andrew Luck, that he's one of these guys that was a no questions asked guaranteed home run. I'm not sold on that. I do think he'll be a very solid player, a starter for a while. I'm just not sold the fact that you can go ahead and write his name and give him a Hall of Fame jacket already. I do think he'll be very solid.
And Jacksonville don't want Andrew Luck. He only played for 6 years.
Right.
Something like that, 6-7 years. He had a quite a short career for sure.
I agree. And I say that more or less that he worked out as far, even if he did step away early, he clearly was on the right path to be. So I would say if he's that, then you won. But I'm not even sure if he will be that. I think that that's top of the line guaranteed for him. I think he'll be a solid starter, but not a generational talent, personally speaking.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, Trevor Lawrence, you hit it on the head. I mean, time will tell. I don't think it's ever great when a quarterback's going into a situation like this, sort of horrible team is rebuilding, new coach, things along those lines.
Agreed. And as great as Urban Meyer was in college and one of the greatest college coaches of all time, zero track record in the NFL. Yep. Completely different game.
Yep.
Will they work out the same? Obviously, he's a great coach. He's a great offensive mind coach. Can get the most out of any quarterback, it seems. So I do think he'll probably be a pretty decent coach, but also you never know. So you got a quarterback that's supposed to be can't miss. Maybe wasn't as scrutinized as he should have been throughout the time. So maybe there'll be some things that are missed that are open glares later on with a unproven coach and a team that's historically shitty. So
absolutely. No, I agree with all of that. So go ahead and move on to the second pick. So who do you think the Jets, another team in shambles, just trying to kind of find their way?
Yeah, another historically horrible squad. I've been hearing something recently. I thought it was kind of funny. The Jets, they've been calling them the MES mess. I thought that's hilarious. And but I will say I think they're probably going to make the absolute wrong decision and go with Zach Wilson,
Mhm.
who I'm going to go out on the line and say would be a complete bust, not even in the league within 2 or 3 years. I see the writing on the wall where he's complete bust. He's too little. He was injured all the time at BYU. He didn't play anybody at BYU. I've seen some stats where anytime he played a top 25 team, his stats look very, mediocre
I think
compared to.
I think I saw anytime a team won over 10 games, 0-5,
Yeah,
only one touchdown and 7 interceptions.
exactly.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
sorry, keep going.
yeah, no, for sure. And those are top 10 teams that, I mean, top 10 teams obviously a very solid team, but that was like San Diego State and, like Hawaii. It wasn't playing Ohio State. You weren't playing Alabama, LSU, Michigan. You weren't playing anybody that's worth mentioning, even when you weren't doing well. So
Mhm.
it's not like you can say, hey, yeah, we went and I threw 2 picks, but I was playing Alabama. So, hey, uh, I think that's complete bust. I want to see where you would go with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple weeks ago, before they traded Sam Darnold, I would have said they need to go ahead and take Kyle Pitts. Um, they're just so bad and just need help in so many places, and now they don't have a quarterback. They don't really have a choice now.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things where teams just kind of start to. I mean, football is not. It's not a hard. I understand that, like, the general manager perspective and kind of like, what that process. Like, I know it can be tougher, easier said than done, but I think there's times where you just like you got to just kind of make the right decision. Just kind of sit back and look at like what you have.
Yeah.
A lot of people are really sold on Sam Darnold. I know you're not a big Sam Darnold guy, but I mean, I just think about how they oohs and ahs over Zach Wilson throwing this ball across his body in a pro day. Literally saw a tape of Sam Darnold doing the exact same thing against NFL players. And for some odd reason, these teams, they want to just kind of get up and get off players, as quick as possible. Always looking at like the shiny new toy, not the one. They kind of want the Ferrari, but they don't really appreciate the Honda that you can throw 100,000, 200,000 miles on. It's not going to die on you. They just kind of want the thing that just depreciates as soon as it gets off the lot. You know, the value is never really going to be there again. Kind of going on a random tangent. Doesn't really make a ton of sense, but I just kind of, they just always want to go for just what's new or just what's, sometimes it's quick to move on. I feel like when you're that bad of a team, you got to kind of just keep certain pieces and build off and build around them if you want to get anywhere. But they'll be right back in the top 5 next year. So
You have him going Zach Wilson also?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If they didn't have Sam Darnold, if they did have Sam Darnold, I would have said Kyle Pitts, but they traded him, so they need Zach Wilson now.
Fair enough. Now, I would just a brief mention. I do think Sam Darnold is an NFL quarterback. I do think he's very solid.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think, uh, what? Yes, you're right. They want the new shiny toy. They want the exciting thing. Sam Darnold's old news. He's already looked bad in our uniform. So this guy, he's the savior. So I think that's kind of what teams often fall into. And yeah, you're right. They'll be right back here in a couple of years, taking whoever the top high school prospect is right now.
Yep, they'll definitely be top 5 next year for sure.
Yeah.
I would bet like, yeah, it'll leave every cent in my account that they're not gonna finish any higher than like 3-13.
For sure.
So, third pick with this one, I am going to go Kyle Pitts. I'm a big Kyle Pitts fan. I didn't really know a ton about him until towards the end of last season, but I mean, I was able to watch some highlights and kind of watch, read some articles and just really kind of understand like what type of player he is and like what he really meant to that Florida team last year.
How good
I
he
feel
was.
like San Francisco. I mean, they're obviously they traded up for this pick, right? So they're kind of like in a rare situation where they're like Super Bowl ready right now. They just kind of need like a piece to like basically get them over the hump and get them back to where they were.
Yeah.
They had a lot of injuries last year. I think they ended up finishing like 8-8, 7-9, something along those lines. I think him and George Kittle, he's one of those guys too that you can put him out on the line, you can put him in a slot, put him outside the numbers. You can really put him to a lot of different places. I sincerely do think if he keeps his head on straight and everything goes according to plan, I truly do feel like he will be unguardable essentially. Like he could be like a Travis Kelce type skill set a couple years from now.
No, I agree. I think regardless of where Kyle Pitts goes, he is probably the best player in the draft. I personally think he'll be the best player probably overall. When all things considered at position, generally speaking, across the board.
Yep.
But if you partner him with that team and another great offensive weapon and tight end, I don't know who could stop them. Who are you going to pick? Who are you going to, who do you want to, pick your poison this time around? So I agree. That would be the smart move for them to do.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think they're going to mess it up and go with the quarterback and probably take Mac Jones, who I think I would put him in the exact same boat as Wilson. At least he played real competition, so he'll probably be able to handle the situation a little better, and he's going to a much better situation.
Mm-hmm.
So so I think they're thinking game manager. Now, why do you draft a game manager with the third pick? I'm not sure, but I think they're thinking game manager. Is he any better than Jimmy Garoppolo? I can't see it. I think he's probably obviously Jimmy Garoppolo's been in the league 6-7 years, so at least you know what you have. Proven starter, he's healthy. This guy, he was the third string on his depth chart 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He was he was sitting behind
Tua
and Jalen Hurts. Now obviously those are both NFL players, but they're not knockdown guaranteed starters and NFL, royalty as well. So I think when you look at all that considered, and he has the 2 DUIs, which nobody's talking about. I think 2 DUIs that nobody's discussing.
The quietest DUIs I think I've ever seen in this type of situation. I heard about it 2 weeks ago. Haven't heard it since.
Yeah. So I think they're doing hush hush on the DUIs. He was third on his own college depth chart 18 months ago. He's throwing to probably 3 or 4 different NFL receivers.
Yeah, those 2 receivers, Waddle and Smith, are going to both go.
And the top running back in the draft, and Najee Harris, with 3, 4, 5, 6 defensive players are going to get drafted this weekend as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when you consider all of that, I think he's walking into best case scenario. I gotta be honest. I think he's gonna be a bust. But I think best case scenario, he's a quarterback that's holding them back, and they're trying to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, he's not even on their team in a couple years.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, we'll talk a little about the QBs after we kind of finish this top 10. But I think it's always Alabama, USC, and Ohio State. If a quarterback comes from there, they just never pan out. I think the best one out of the group that might have did anything, Matt Leinart was okay for a couple years out of USC. Terrell Pryor, he had his best part of his career as a wide receiver. He played quarterback for 2 seasons.
Agreed. And I'll go back a little farther, and I hate USC, you know that. I'll go back a little farther and give him Carson Palmer.
Okay. Yeah, he was solid. Cincinnati and Arizona. That's actually a good call there. Good call for sure.
Other than that, I couldn't name one.
Yep.
They got everybody's turned receiver. Alabama. I mean, is he any better? I can't think of the guy's name, but is he any better than the Alabama quarterback of A.J. McCarron? Like, what's the difference between him and A.J. McCarron?
Not much.
No. It's literally no, I don't get it. So I think, A.J. McCarron, he could be game managing too. And I bet you he's not even in the league. I guarantee it. Yeah. So I can't see the big of a difference.
Nope.
Agreed.
For sure. You want to head off?
Moving on, number 4, I'm taking the guy you just took. I'm going Kyle Pitts. I think I could see them, if they get him, they could try to maybe shed Julio, get another, be able to shed Julio and get another player, whether it's a defensive player or another pick to get a defensive player. But I think they can think, okay, we'll just keep moving this great wide receiver thing. Julio transitioning into Kyle Pitts, and we already got Matt Ryan. He's very solid. Yeah. I could see them, just trying to keep that moving forward like that, and thinking we won't disrupt too much.
Right.
And maybe they'll try to keep both of them for a while, and that'd be nasty. I don't know who could stop that as well if you have Julio healthy, but I think Kyle Pitts in an Atlanta jersey, hanging out down there in Atlanta, he'll be a superstar, and in same type of ilk as Julio Jones.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely will be well received there. The only team stopping Atlanta with that type of offense is Atlanta.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen them blow leads left and right. You know, they got some other issues they need to definitely address. This isn't a very heavy defensive draft as far as just like that talent within like this range of like that top 10.
Yeah.
So that, no, I agree with that pick. That definitely makes sense. I think who they should go after, because obviously Kyle Pitts already off the board on my side of things. I'm going to actually have them. I'm going to give Justin Fields. I think this will be from Georgia.
Yep.
Sit behind Matt Ryan for a couple years. I don't really understand the Justin Fields criticism. To me, it's crazy. Like, I for a second I thought he retired, and I just missed like the notification or something, because I think Trey Lance will be a good player too. Mac Jones, just another Kirk Cousins. That's just all I really kind of see from him. But Justin Fields, just watching him in the Big Ten the last couple years, I think his first year in the Big Ten, he threw like 30-something touchdowns, 1 interception. He runs when he needs to. He doesn't like run just, run. And I think, that offense, got a guy that can keep plays extended a little bit longer. When the pocket, play breaks down, things along those lines. Throwing to, essentially Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, next couple years,
Right.
that could be something that could be quite dangerous. And just like you said with Kyle Pitts, I feel like Justin Fields obviously be received the same way, being a hometown kid, and I think that's where he belongs at.
Yeah. I think that'd be very solid for him as well. I would say Fields is the second quarterback behind Lawrence in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Not even question. I've seen the Justin Fields since that Netflix show, whatever it was, QB1 or whatever. I've been watching the kid since he was like 17. But I think he's good. I liked him when he went down to Georgia. Obviously, I hated him when he went to Ohio, but I can't lie. Talent is talent. He's good.
Mm-hmm.
He's good. And if you just go back and watch the playoff games, he beat Clemson and looked better. He looked better than Trevor Lawrence. He looked more commanding.
Broken ribs too.
Broken ribs. He toughed it out. I don't think Trevor Lawrence would have been out there with the blonde hair and the broken ribs. I just can't see it. Maybe it would have happened, but I think he would have thought, I got this first pick locked up. Fuck it. This guy knew I got to go out here and play. I got to prove myself. And I think anytime you have a chip on your shoulder, that just helps. And Trevor Lawrence said last week himself he didn't have a chip on his shoulder because nobody's ever criticized him. So I would say that would be a good move for them, especially if you're thinking he might not play for a year or so and just fully develop and just come out slinging it next year.
Yeah, and I'll say too, like that, they're a lot better. They're not a top 5 draft. They shouldn't really be in the top 5. They blew just a few different games here and there to where they could literally have been, picking like 12, 13, 14.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's just a great situation where they got to tighten up a couple other things, just like on, different side of the ball, like the O-line and such. But yeah, perfect situation to sit behind Matt Ryan for 1 year, 2 years, whatever that kind of looks like, and work his way in. So absolutely.
Yeah. I think I take it off next this time.
Okay, you go ahead.
So, be Cincinnati next. I think I don't know. I think with this situation, you went and got a quarterback last year. You got to protect Joe Burrow. He's obviously proven he's going to be pretty good. I think you need to go and get an offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Oregon kid.
Penei Sewell.
Yeah, I knew I was going to mess the first name up. But I think he was, I just looked at the videos, seen him. I think I watched him play a few times, but he stands out when you see him. He's a massive, massive human being. I think you go ahead and get him. That's an easy, solid starter for the next, 7-10 years for that team, and try to keep Joe Burrow standing up straight and healthy, and then begin to get a real team around him. Not that one of those receivers wouldn't be sexy, but I don't think one of those receivers are going to help him keep his knees up and help him keep those standing up and getting the ball down the field.
I agree. Yeah, no, anytime, I mean, it's unfortunate that a player that soon in his career had that bad of an injury already just because he's not being protected correctly. I don't think anything else makes sense. Like, if I were them, you'd probably want an O lineman first couple rounds.
Yeah.
They got a good running back, got solid receivers. They just got T. Higgins last year. They got his guy, his name is Tyler Boyd. Solid guys. I mean, I think they played well when Burrow was in and he was healthy. For me, I'm gonna definitely choose a couple receivers in this rest of this top 10, but I think they're like generational talents. But in their situation, I think you always got to kind of, when a team is as bad as they were the previous year and kind of trying to still build things up, you want to just kind of start with protecting the guy that's going to be essentially your leader for 10 to 12 years down the road. And I think you need to address that. And I mean, this draft has a ton of receivers that can be productive going long term. And
yeah.
I don't think they need to get a receiver for the simple fact that they get a receiver, don't get old lineman, don't get like a solid old lineman. How are you going to even get the ball to the receiver if if Burrow's not even getting protected correctly?
Exactly.
So no, that's a good pick there. I knew we had a feeling we'd agree on that one.
Yeah, to me that's a no-brainer. But yeah. I know, like you said earlier, sometimes GMs like to be the smartest in the room, and they're like, "Hey, Ja'Marr Chase is here," and so I agree.
Absolutely. I'll head off number 6, Miami. Now this is where they got to go Ja'Marr Chase here, in my opinion. They were 10-6 last year, missed the playoffs, which is outrageous. That doesn't happen a ton. Jury's still out on Tua, but they were able to get him. Wide receiver Will Fuller from the Texans. Nice deep threat. I think people don't even realize Ja'Marr Chase, he didn't play this year, but 2 years ago, he had better stats than what Devontae Smith had and won the Heisman with this year. But he didn't win the Heisman because Joe Burrow had 5,000 yards and 60 touchdowns. So, I mean, I just remember watching Ja'Marr Chase in that national championship game against Clemson, and Clemson has been this team we've watched for the last 5 to 7 years just be damn near unstoppable. And he managed to have something around 10 catches for 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. And he was as a sophomore.
Right.
So he essentially had a better year that year than Devontae Smith did last year. I'm not a huge 40-time guy and all the numbers, things along those lines, but he obviously tested well. I mean, they get all the best training and things along those lines year round in order to do well in those types of environments. But I just think he's decent size, strong. I don't think he'll have a problem. I can bump and run coverage. I think he'll be able to come in and make an impact, stretch the field out a little bit, hopefully be able to kind of help Tua get over that hump, and just kind of be more productive this year than he was last year.
Yeah, I got the same pick actually. I think for a lot of the same reasons you said. I think they obviously proved they're rolling with Tua. They started him last year, even though they benched him for a minute and then restarted him. But I think they proved they're rolling with Tua, and I think they can go get a number 1 receiver here. Now, the odd thing I find is obviously Kyle Pitts is great, and he played more of a tight end role. But I find it odd that his stats are literally a third of Ja'Marr Chase's and Jalen Waddle's when you think about it that way. He has 45 catches for 800 yards, which is crazy at tight end, but he also plays receiver a lot.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy that these guys had 115 catches for 1,900 yards.
Mm-hmm.
When I was looking at the stats throughout the week, it kind of stood out to me a lot. Now I understand different offenses, Florida's not tucking it up like that. Side note real quick, they don't keep a targets for college football, which I find odd.
That's very interesting.
I couldn't find it anywhere. So I was trying to figure out how often these guys are even getting thrown the ball. If you have 120 catches, you had to have 150 balls. You had to have 160 passes go your way.
Yeah, so, I'll say too, I think Waddle for Bama went down, and it was just a Devontae Smith show from there, pretty much to where Florida had a couple guys, one guy last name is Tony, another guy named Trayvon Grimes that kind of because Pitts, and obviously he's had a great season, he somehow managed to have 12 touchdowns out of those 40-something catches, which is insane.
No, I think he's definitely the best. I was just taking a different, I was looking at the stats, and it stood out to me just how productive these guys were. I guess. Like it's kind of crazy. Like,
and I was shocked that Pitts didn't have like at least 1,000. I was pretty surprised at that.
I mean, we're a Michigan fan. I don't think Michigan quarterbacks had 1,800 yards.
Yeah.
Like, I'm being honest. So when you look at it from that point of view, these guys is one receiver doing that.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. I guess I'll go ahead and top it off with the next one here. That's our you represent with the hat on right now. That's the Lions. Yep. And I think they're gonna go ahead and fumble it with Jalen Waddle and go ahead and get the third best receiver out of the top 10 here. And and just I'm not sure. My thought process is similar, like you said earlier. We just lost receiver in Galladay. We just got a new quarterback that's used to having weapons, used to having safety blankets, and I think if we send him, I don't believe this, but I think they think if we send him out there without a receiver, he's going to look horrendously bad.
Yeah.
Now, I personally think the same thought with out of offensive line, but I think their thought is let's go get Jared Goff a weapon. Let's go get the Heisman Trophy winner. That sounds like something the Lions would want, and that's kind of my pick. I do think he'll be a solid receiver. I think he is the third best out of the group, and but I do think he'll be a solid first. I don't know, borderline like number one receiver, but probably could also go get another number one and a definite number one if he had to. I'm saying a few years down the line. I'm not saying he's going to be Deshaun Jackson because I don't see that. I think he'll be a solid receiver.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I thought about this one very hard because I just want the Lions to do well. Obviously, they're the whole hometown team. I just still could not bring myself to have them take a receiver. Like, I couldn't allow myself to, like, say if they're going to take a receiver. I went defense. So I'm going first defensive player off the board, Micah Parsons. He's 6'3". Yeah, 6'3", 250. I mean, he didn't play last year, but the year before.
Yeah.
I mean, just unstoppable, just a tackler, just always around the ball, can blitz, coverage. Think he does need a little work there in the coverage game, but he might be a little bit of a project. But I just think they got to start to. They were last in the league in off defense last year, like points allowed, yards allowed. Like they were like 28 to 32 in like a lot of those major categories. I always kind of say like you can always kind of find we can talk about like Stephon Diggs, 5th round pick, DK Metcalf, 2nd round pick, AJ Brown, 2nd round pick,
2nd or 3rd round
pick. Yep, I truly believe that they can find if they want to get weapons. You got these receivers nowadays. They can all catch. They can all go. They all it's just one of them things where first round is only 32 picks, and that's why the beauty of having 7 rounds because I think they'll be able to find a couple different gems. I would love for them to be able to grab one of those like maybe like the 4th or 5th best receiver in the 2nd round, and kind of start to build out the offense from there. But I think they need to definitely address the defensive ball side of the ball first.
You can always find receivers in mid-late round. There's no Donovan Peoples-Jones was a 5th or 6th round pick last year.
Yep.
You got T.O. was a 3rd round pick. You got what's my man's name? The big dude used to play Brandon Johnson. I don't know I can't think of his name, but he used to play in Denver and he played in Chicago. Brandon Marshall. 3rd or 4th round pick. You always can find that. There's no people make it too hard. Every year there's a guy that's in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round that's leading the rookies in receiving. So
AJ Brown from 2 years ago, he might be the best receiver like in his own class. And he, like I said, he should have been a 1st round pick, but that talent, it's always going to be there. I mean, these kids, I mean, nowadays they're doing 7-on-7s from when they're like 10 years old up until, the day they hang it up. Like everybody has great ball skills. Everybody can run. Everybody can go. I mean, I just think it's one of them things you can kind of find like a little puzzle piece in a later round, like a gem. Like you just catch a lot of balls, yards at the catch, get the end zone for you a few times. they got to be able to stop people first, and
Yeah.
they don't have Stafford, so like.
Yeah, so nobody to keep us in the games.
Right.
Golf starts throwing 2-3 picks a game. And I think we said this before, it's not a Stafford time. We're going to see just how great Stafford was and that he was keeping us in all these games, not helping us lose them at the end.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, completely agree.
Absolutely.
Up next,
Carolina.
Yeah. Up next, Carolina here. And I personally, I don't know. I didn't know how to trade this. I personally think they're probably gonna trade this. I think they just got the quarterback in Sam Darnold.
Got rid of Teddy Bridgewater.
Just got rid of Teddy Bridgewater today. To me, it's looking like they're probably gonna move this, and if that's the case, I'm not really sure how to play that as far as what we're gonna say. But I think they'll probably back out of this, move it to. I'm just gonna go ahead and go on a limb and say move it to New England. They'll come in on my draft board. Justin Fields is still available. Probably come in and get one of the quarterbacks. I'll go Justin Fields. And I think from my point of view, that'd be good for Fields, good for New England. He could sit behind Cam, a similar yoke, and just learn that process for a year, and then walk into what I would imagine is going to be a phenomenal situation in a year from now with learning from Cam, an MVP, Super Bowl goer, Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
And with Belichick cooking all that up, I could easily see a whole year from now coming around, because I don't think Belichick could get antsy and put him in early. He'll sit there and let him cook, like similar to Tom Brady, and I think he'll be very solid stepping in there.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I actually have them. I had them holding on to this pick. I think so. They lost. I'm blanking on his name right now. Curtis Samuel. They lost him to the Washington football team. I think they're kind of going to be – I kind of got this vibe where it's like, okay, we got Sam Darnold for like damn near nothing. Like, we should just rock with him, get another piece for him, really see if we can help him, hit that ceiling for the top, kind of tap into that potential. And I just think him, Darnold, the pick I'm going to go with is Waddle. That's going to be the guy that I think they do end up grabbing. They got a couple other stud receivers, or two other stud receivers already.
McCaffrey.
Yep, they got McCaffrey in the backfield. I just think like
that'd be some weapon for him. That'd be good. I would like to see if he. That's one of the situations where if you can't do nothing with that, then it's on you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You got a good running back, couple good receivers. Just got your new Heisman Trophy winner. If you go out here and fuck it up, that's on you.
Yep.
Yeah. Agreed. That'd be good.
So yeah, like I think Waddle, as far as just you hit it right on the head. I think people like him a lot more than Smith, even though Smith won the Heisman. But like people like Waddle a little bit more. He's a little bit more filled out, fast. They might have been competing for the Heisman if he wouldn't have got hurt this past year. But no, you hit it right on the head there. I definitely agree with you to where it's one of those scenarios where if Darnold can't make it happen, they didn't have to sacrifice a first round pick for him. So they can just kind of do without him and then come back around next year and, test the waters in that side of things again. I don't really see them picking top 10 next year if they're able to, kind of put some stuff together, have a little bit better of a season. But yeah, I think they should definitely go a weapon and just kind of see what they can do from there.
That'd be I actually would like to see it, kind of see how that works out.
Absolutely. I'll head it off at 9. So I have Denver holding on to this pick as well. I got him taking Trey Lance. I think I see a lot of Colin Kaepernick and Trey Lance. I know he's like a small town kid, small school kid to where people are kind of like, he threw for 28 picks, no interceptions. Like, is that like, he played in like 1AA. I just feel like anytime you don't, the way interceptions or even count as a stat, the ball is tipped, receiver drops the ball, runs the wrong route. There's so many scenarios I can go into. I think every QB can argue that like 4 to 5 of their picks each year are like not really their fault. Yeah. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is like he was able to be so efficient with the ball and probably had a couple of things go his way. Maybe DB probably dropped the ball here and there that season, whatever. But like, I think it's just impressive to be able to pull up those types of numbers. Also ran for like 1,000 yards, like 10, 12 touchdowns. Denver, they already have, solid running back. They got this receiver they got Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, got a couple other guys that are just solid. Noah Fant, the tight end from Iowa, had a great season last year. I don't think Drew Lock I don't think they're just done with him as far as, I think the nail in the coffin was when like he ended up getting COVID with all those other quarterbacks last year and they were just so pissed off at him about that. Like, I don't think, it's one of the things you can't really recover from because that happened and he was hurt and like, you come back and just still like don't do well. Like obviously last year is the off season for like everybody, but I think that was one of the things where you can kind of control what you can control. And there was a scenario where he kind of dropped the ball and kind of missed on the opportunity to be the full-time starter there. I think they end up getting Trey Lance, end up trading Drew Lock somewhere and kind of starting off fresh. I love that John Elway, kind of leading the charge there. Probably take him under his wing, try to like help him develop and grow. That defense has always been like a top 15 defense. They just kind of need somebody to be able to come in there and help them compete with Kansas City.
So I have the same pick as far as Trey Lance going there. I see a lot of the same things you said. I think with the Trey Lance, it's definitely a project, and I don't really want to say a project, but it's definitely one of those things where I think the speed from going 1AA to playing Kansas City week 1 will be far too fast of a transition. So he's probably going to have at least, I would say, even if you want to get rid of Drew Lock as soon as possible, you probably at least got to keep him there or go sign another veteran because you can't really throw him into the fire that I think even if he played in the SEC or Big Ten or whatever, I think those lights are too bright. He's never played in that big of a stadium, never seen somebody that fast, that big, I'm not sure what type of defense that motherfuckers were running or that type of stuff. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a rude awakening, but literally looking at those highlights, watching him, he's lowering the shoulder on people. He's launching it. He looks very phenomenal. So I would say you take him, give him a little bit, I don't know, a year or so, maybe a year on the bench. I would say he would come in looking very good. I wouldn't want to see him roll it out there week 1 versus the Raiders or versus, Kansas City coming off a 1AA schedule. And he didn't even play this year.
So, yeah, he played one game.
Yeah. So I think all of that considered, I don't think you could throw him out there that early. But I do like what I have to, the video I like to tape and just listening to him talk. I think he has a lot of poise. I would take him before I take Mac Jones any day. I would take him before I take Zach Wilson any day. I know he's going to be better than both of those guys. So he's my third quarterback behind Justin Fields and those two as far as talent goes. But the stupidity is going to let him fall all the way to the back half of top 10.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And now, just to round off the top 10, at the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, I got them taking Patrick Surtain. I just think like anytime Bama not really known for having greatest quarterbacks all the time, but one thing they will do is pump out the defensive players.
Yep.
Dallas couldn't really stop a nosebleed last year. They struggled a lot on defense, and then that didn't help when Dak got hurt, and it was kind of like downhill from there. And they still somehow were like in the playoff race. So I think that what they'll be able to do is just grab him, tighten up the defense a little bit more. And yeah, I mean, anytime you can find yourself a solid lockdown corner, I mean, you're always going to be doing your defense a good favor in that regard.
I agree. I think I don't know. Actually, this was one of the only picks I really kind of fought on because I do think they probably need a corner, but I also think they just signed Dak to the biggest contract in the history of the world. He's coming off getting his leg destroyed. They haven't been able to run the ball like they used to, and so I personally, I don't know. So I'm kind of torn. So I can see them really going either way. Both of them is a need. But I'm gonna go ahead and go Rashawn Slater from Northwestern.
Okay.
Beast. I remember him playing Chase Young a couple years back.
Yep.
Manhandled him. I seen him playing against some of the Michigan boys the last few years. The guy's good.
Hmm.
Uh, Northwestern, Big Ten school, Big Ten kid. I think he'll anchor your line or whatever position you need to put him at for 10 years. So I'm gonna go ahead and go. They'll probably go with him. My thought is, but if Patrick Surtain, you can't go wrong with that. He'll be a starter for 10 years as well, and I can see the kind of the lore in both of them, to be honest.
Yep. Absolutely. No, that's a great pick. I mean, I've always thought they had a pretty solid old line. They had quite a few injuries. I mean, I think they even had like their best center. I think he like retired a couple years back. So they probably could for sure use a little bit more depth there, just kind of some new blood in there to just, um, yeah, protect him. That's a great pick for sure. I didn't really, you made a good call there with Dak being hurt, one to kind of protect. I mean, that's probably a quarter of their salary cap right there alone. So, you definitely want to make sure he's going to be upright for a good portion of the season. And yeah, we all know that, they'll be the favorite. Regardless of what they do, they'll be the favorite to win it all and probably not even make the playoffs. But
No, I agree. And just real quick, I think they, I, I would hope that they seen how good of a success they had with being able to plug in any running back that they could find off the street.
yep,
DeMarco Murray, go get Zeke. He rushed for 1,900 yards right out of college. DeMarco Murray rushed for 2,000. And
yep,
I think they seen it. That was all because of that line. They literally could have plucked any college running back that was decent that year and put him back there, and he would have got 1,200 yards. And now you have Zeke, who's making great money, and he can't average over 4 yards a carry. So I think
yeah,
the whole thing doesn't work if the line isn't there. Now, obviously, you need defense too, but you're already paying Dak, so you got to kind of make it work on offense too.
hmm
So I think that's kind of my thought process on that. But yeah, I think I don't know. I think they're kind of in a weird spot, like you said. Every year they're the favorite, and then they don't do anything. But then some years they're not expected to do that much, and they show up. So who knows what they can put together this year?
yeah. Well, time will tell. That division is obviously probably one of the worst in football last year, and I think either way, whether they go corner or O line, I mean, they definitely have the best quarterback, I would say, in that division. So they're definitely poised to, make the playoffs and possibly make a deep run. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think we both had some solid picks.
we're only a day away.
Yeah,
Only away from draft solid picks. I think it'd be interesting to look back even come Friday and see how close we were,
yep,
and also some of the critiques. Not that not that I think I'm always right, but I think I'm usually pretty hard on quarterbacks, and I think usually that's the default. Right is you should automatically assume they're not going to be good. So I
hmm
think it'd be interesting to see it pan out. Now, I know we also discussed bringing up some of the diamonds, some of the sleeper picks. We each got a handful of those.
yep,
Just kind of run through those rapid fire and see if some of these guys are, looking back in a couple years and they're Pro Bowl type players that were,
yeah,
second or fourth round picks.
yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
yeah, I'll head it off really quick. I got it up on my phone. I'll start off with Kellen Mond. I mean, that's somebody that I think he might even sneak into the first round. I definitely see like Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson type,
Mm.
potential scenario. He goes to like maybe like a Pittsburgh, like a Washington football team, sits down for a little bit, shows out in preseason, steals the job, does really well. I mean, he was a 4-year starter at Texas A&M, was coached. I mean, he improved every year. I mean, he was in the SEC playing like Bama and LSU, into where it's always tough. If you're not Bama or LSU or Florida or like Georgia in the SEC, kind of got a hard time just really even being, relevant. So I think he was able to do well. They went to a pretty solid. They went to a New Year's Six Bowl this year and they ended up winning it. Coached by Jimbo Fisher. I mean, he coached Jameis Winston. So I think he's definitely got like that NFL ready
Yeah.
type pro style offense that he was in. I definitely like his game. The next guy would be Nico Collins. 6'4", 215, red zone threat. Quarterback play was always just inconsistent at Michigan the last 3 years, but he still was able to find a way to be like a major impact. Opted out last season. People probably kind of forgot about him a little bit. Chuba Hubbard, Oklahoma State running back, went for over 2,000 rushing yards in 2019. Was hurt a lot last year. Running backs. I mean, unless you're like Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley, you're not really going top 10 anymore, first round anymore at that. He'll probably end up falling, third, fourth round to a team that'll, be like a perfect fit, like a Denver Broncos, some, team like that. Just kind of still likes to really pound the rock. My last one is Zaven Collins. I think he's going to be a first round guy. I just don't think that like he's being talked about enough. I kind of see like a Khalil. I don't see the Khalil Mack skill set, but I see him kind of having like a Khalil Mack impact from coming from a small school and contributing to a big, contributing to an NFL team that might be kind of poised to make that playoff run, getting into the Super Bowl potentially. I saw that he had 4 interceptions last year, 2 in for touchdowns, and one of them was 96 yards. And I mean, the guy's like 6'4", like 260, 265. I think he plays outside linebacker. He plays a little bit of like edge, defensive end as well. And I just love guys like that are able to kind of put their hand in the dirt, go into coverage, 4 down guys that you don't need to pull them for certain like down things along those lines. So those are my guys I think you definitely want to watch out for.
Yeah, so we actually got a couple of them that share. So I also, for my QB sleeper, I had Kellen Mond. I think you talked about it, so I'm not going to beat the dead horse, but I think going through the gauntlet of the SEC without the best Warriors can sharpen your sword. You know what I mean? Like going through there every week and having to play LSU when they were putting up 60 a game, having to play Alabama every week, having to play Georgia, Florida, whoever, and not having the tough, the equivalent players around you. I think it only makes you better. And I think he's very, like you said, Dak Prescott also played in the SEC out of middle of the road team. I think with Mississippi State.
Yep.
Similar size, similar build. Can run a little bit, not going to kill you for 1,000 yards, but definitely can scramble.
Yeah.
Don't let him get too loose. So I think I agree. He's going to be very solid. He'll be better than almost every other. He'll be better than
Matt Jones for sure.
He'll be better than everybody probably in the Lawrence and Fields to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless Trey Lance super works out, but you know what I mean. He's right there in that same conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no question. He's better than Mac Jones or fucking the BYU guy. I also had Nico Collins on there. I think we know how good he is just due to watching him every week not be able to get the ball being wide open. How many times did ESPN or Fox Sports Detroit, whoever, break down him running up the sideline with a corner 20 yards behind him and our quarterback getting sacked or throwing the ball to the other guy. So I think we know how good he is. We've seen how Donovan Peoples-Jones hit the field, go crazy last year.
Yep.
Becoming a high target for them towards the back half of the year.
Yep.
So, and he was more productive than Peoples-Jones was at Michigan. So I think when you look at that, he's going to be great. I also have a couple more Big Ten guys on here. I have Rondale Moore, the Purdue kid.
Yeah.
I think he's very good. I think he's speedy. I'm not sure what exactly he's going to be, but he is a Darren Sproles type. I see him being used in the slot, put him in the backfield, some motion, punt return, kick return. I think he'll make somebody's team very good.
Yep.
Don't let him get in the hands of somebody with a real team like Kansas City or Baltimore or somebody like that, where they already got everything, and what are you gonna do? You want do you want Hollywood Brown scoring a touchdown, or do you want this dude to get the reverse on the back? So I think he's gonna be great, and this kind of rounds up my top couple of those. I got the tight end from Penn State, Pat Freiermuth, whatever you say his name.
Freiermuth? Yeah.
Freiermuth. I think he's got a big guy. I watched him play. He tore us up a couple times back, maybe not this year, maybe the year before that.
Yeah.
I just think he looks like he belongs in the NFL as far as a big corn-fed white boy tight end that just looks solid. I think he'll be a very solid tight end. That's going to be, mid round.
I just like how he just like ran all in the middle, all of his routes, posts, fades, digs, just in the middle of the field, just not scared to like kind of dance in those types of waters where linebackers and receivers are just like chomping at the bit to rip your head off as soon as you catch the ball. And he very, very productive. So yeah, no, that's a good list of sleepers though for sure.
No, for sure. Good deal. But NFL draft 1 day away.
Yeah.
We'll be in the heat of it about 24 hours from now. So
yeah,
I think it's a good conversation here.
Absolutely.
Thank everybody for tuning in. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Just kind of go, recap. Probably talk about the Lions, their entire draft in depth, grade them, and then also go over the top 10 and see, how our top 10 compared to theirs. So.
Good deal. Thanks for tuning in.
Yep. Till next time.